This is Mrs. Rodriguez, and today's lesson is on database criteria. Search criteria allows you to filter a database to find specific records. You set the search criteria by clicking on the cell in the criteria row of each field you want to filter. However, when criteria are placed on separate lines, like the image above, the results will show records that match either of the criteria. So, for example, here is a query design window. We are searching for records where the sex is equal to female and food is equal to herbivore. Female and herbivore are both on the same row of criteria, which means the record that we find must match both criteria. So here the result will be record 2, which would be Betsy. This record and this record only is pulled because Betsy is female and she is a herbivore. No other record matches both criteria. That's why we only get the one record. But if we were to change where we put the criteria, and instead of putting herbivore on the same line as female, we put it on the line below female, which represents the or, we will get a different set of records when our query is run. This query will pull records. We get Betsy again because it matches female and herbivore. But now we also get record 3, which is Peggy, which only matches female. Record 4, Cotton, again, that only matches female. Record 7, Maureen, that again only matches female. But also record 8, which is Hank, that does not match female, but does match herbivore. So where you put your criteria in your query design window does matter. Pay attention to what kind of results you are expecting to get back. So now let's talk about the different types of criteria. Let's start off with plain text criteria. A plain text criteria is a criteria used to find a specific word or phrase. And to do this, you just type the word that you are searching for. So for example, you can type cats, blue, 1200, cat in a hat. It will find each of those words or phrases if the record matches what you would have typed in your query design window. So let's take a look at what a plain text criteria would look like. So here we are. We are looking for herbivore and we are in the food field. So once we would have typed our criteria, we would go up to the toolbar and we would make sure we click the Run button. The next type of criteria is a wildcard criteria. And there are several types of wildcard criteria. We're going to start with the one that starts with. With this criteria, an asterisk represents the parts of the record that you do not know. For example, if you want to find all of the animals with the names that start with the letter L, when entering this type of criteria, the letters you do know, in this case the letter L, which begins the name, we are going to type that and then we're going to follow it by an asterisk. So we would type L asterisk in our criteria row under the name field. And this will pull names such as Larry, Lee, or Leprechaun. It does not matter how many characters follow the letter that you're looking for. The asterisk will represent any character, number, symbol, or space. So let's take a look at what this would look like in the query design window. We want names, so we're in the name field. We're in the criteria, and we want names that begin with the letter L, although we do not know what will come after. Once we type our criteria, we hit the Run button, and we will get a query result. Now let's look at the wildcard criteria that ends with. So to find a field that ends in a particular letter, we place the asterisk before the letter that we know. So for example, if we want to find all of the keepers with a name that ends in the letter N, the asterisk will go before the N because it represents the letters that come in the name before N, which will be the last letter. So this query will pull names such as Johnson, Thompson, or Rumpelstiltskin. Let's look at it in the query design window. So I'm going to move myself out of the way. So here we are. We are looking under the field keeper. We're in the criteria row, and we are going to type *N. Make sure you press run, and then you will get the results of this query. The last wildcard criteria is the wildcard criteria that will find words that contains. So to find a field that contains a particular letter or group of letters, you are going to place an asterisk before and after the letter or group of letters that you are trying to find. So for example, if we're in the field habitats and we're looking for all of the habitats that contain the letters E and S together, the way we would type that criteria would be asterisk, ES, asterisk, which means Access should search all of the records to see where we find those two letters in the same order together. So this query would find habitats such as forest, desert, and even Rumpelstiltskin, because the E and the S are together in the correct order. So how would we type it in a query design window? We would look for the habitat field, criteria row, asterisk, ES, asterisk, click run. So now let's recap the wildcard criteria. To find words that start with a particular letter, we would type the letter and then an asterisk. To find words that end in a particular letter, we would type asterisk and then the letter. To find words that contains a letter or group of letters together in a word, then we would type asterisk, the letter, the group of letters, even the word, and then asterisk. The last type of criteria is the find the exact characters criteria. And we use this type of criteria when we are trying to find a word with a specific amount of characters. So what we would do is we would type a question mark to represent each character in the word or phrase that we're trying to find. So for example, to find a species whose name is 7 characters long, we would type, and we must include the quotations as you type this in your criteria box. You would type question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. So 7 question marks, which will find all of the species whose species type is exactly 7 letters long. And this query would find things like dolphin, possum, and cheetah. So let's see how this would look in the query design window. So we would look for the field species. We would type quotation, 7 question marks, and quotation. Okay. And that ends today's lesson on database criteria. I hope this was helpful to you and cleared up some of the things that you may have been confused with while we were in class. Please go to Edmodo and complete the worksheet on database criteria. Have a great week, guys.